Hey, so I don't usually do this kind of thing, but I found myself being a bit too mean by the end of the video, and I don't want to be mean. So I'm doing this sort of a post-mortem kind of thing for the video, for the map. So the beginning of it is, fine. It's tough, but also I found it rather fun. This platforming section, it was rather tough, but it's a good way to practice these kind of things, because I've been seeing other mappers try that kind of thing, and like people like Ribix and Insane Gazebo like to do this kind of shit, and ideally I would like to be able to play their maps one day. So thank you for giving me that kind of practice. And other encounters like this one was quite fun. As someone who doesn't really play slaughter maps or these kind of maps in general, this encounter was rather fun. I like how as it sort of steadily increases as you're busy fighting the Hell Knights, and then the Cacos show up, and then you brought in the Revs after you grabbed the Blue Skull, and I found just bringing them all in, getting some infighting going and running around in circles, as someone, like I said, who doesn't really like Slaughter all that much, like these kind of Slaughterlight encounters are quite fun. I enjoyed that one, and this tricky one with the Archviles, this sort of Archvile maze, was quite funny. And the one part I found what was funny is when I got into the teleporter, I completely forgot the idea that they would chase after you, and so they showed up right behind me. And I found the best way to deal with that was to just try and keep running through for a bit. I originally tried to fight them in the maze, but that didn't really seem to work in my favour very well. Now, this area here is where the map kind of starts to fall apart, and I don't know how much longer the map is. Like other people I noticed who have played and posted in the thread, they also got stuck at this point. What I noticed is, like, you have this button here, and when you press that, the horde of imps appear above. I'm going to talk about them in a minute. And I was confused on, like, why I was suddenly surrounded by all these imps at this elevator and couldn't penetrate the crowd. And so I assumed that you didn't predict that the player would necessarily do the button down at the bottom first, because I noticed you've got the 4 switches. You've got the 4 switches here in the corners. Here in the corners here. So I assumed that you had to press those first. And no, so I thought because before I did a replay, because I got stuck, because this was my theory, that you had to press these 4 switches after or before the middle switch, and then the imps would show up, and so that I thought I sequence broke. Or, well, see, it's a bit confusing, because I thought I had accidentally done something out of order that ended up screwing me by having me stuck in the middle here and not being able to penetrate the imps, because they just overwhelmed the elevator at this point, and you can't penetrate the crowd, you can't hope to, and you just die over and over and over again. So what I did was because I didn't understand, I thought I might have broken it or done it out of order because you didn't predict how you figured the player would only do it one way, wouldn't think to do that button first. So I started over, and so I started over and did the whole thing again to then get to the point, to get to that room again, then deal with all this shit. And once I had killed everything, I figured, what happens if I press all the switches first? Or at least I think. Like I said, it's confusing of when the imps appear. Now that I'm thinking about it, I'm guessing they appear when you press the button in the middle. Like I said, I thought, guys, I initially pressed all the buttons first and then went down and pressed the other button and then got stuck. At this point, I did manage to penetrate the crowd once. Only once. Let me just try and find it. I only managed to penetrate the crowd once. I got lucky here. Managed to smash it through like that, and then grab the God Sphere, and managed to make a little bit of progress trying to hit all the buttons. This is what I thought you were supposed to do. And I also, because the other time I pressed all the buttons first and nothing seemed to be happening. And then I went down the side there and pressed the button and fought the guys down there, and then dealing with this crowd and you know, being stuck. So I thought, okay, maybe it's the other way around. But, you know, you run out of God Sphere and you still die. And that was just one out of about, God, I don't know how many attempts afterwards that I tried and tried and tried again to penetrate the imp crowd, but I could not get past them. And so I don't really understand what you think the player is able to achieve at this point. It's just really stupidly unfair, and I don't really understand the progression. I'm not sure what you were thinking, but unless you give the player a shit ton more resources, preferably a BFG, I have no earthly clue how on earth you are supposed to deal with the bajillion imps that you've got at this point. I don't get it. I'm sorry.